Question says, where can we find... Repeat the question, please. No, it's not.
Where can we find the evidence that Bilal's father was Arab lineage?
Where can we find the evidence that Bilal's father was of Arab lineage? A very interesting question. We'll try to keep the answer as less interesting as possible. In general, I'm not going to tell you my specific sources. That will be unfair for me to tell you the specific resources, specific things that I've come across. That will be unfair to me and unfair to you as well. However, bidnillahi ta'ala, you can't go wrong with Google, inshallah. You can't go wrong with Google, huh? Read the different Wikipedia or the different websites, the different articles, the different books, in which you can perhaps find that information for a trustworthy source. As far as my specific details, these are exclusive things to what? Mufti Muhammad ibn Munir. Wallahu alam. Inshallah, you'll find the information if you read in the proper sources. Bidnillahi ta'ala. It's not I would say, not to keep it too long, but I would say, it's not like secret exclusive knowledge, but it is a bit weird that you never ever hear it. And it's something that's well known in the sources where he came from. Wallahu alam.
Next question says, can you please explain the wisdom behind slave of right-hand possession? Are they really considered as sex slaves?
Question says, can you explain the wisdom behind slaves in Islam, right-hand possessions, and the list goes on. It's a very long topic, a very thorny, scratchy, or hairy topic that many Muslims will feel uncomfortable about. We'll try our best to keep the answer as summarized and as clear as possible. First point and the first principle, we talk about slavery, concubines, battles, right-hand possessions, is that you have to deal with history with two things. Number one, you have to deal with history with reality. Number two, you have to deal with history with transparency. Many people today, if not most of them, when they talk about historical facts, historical happenings, or things that took place, occurrences, they're lacking in one of these two fields. They're not real. They take things that are inaccurate. They hide things. They put things under the carpet that were real realities of history. And secondly, they're not transparent. They're not open and looking directly from one side to the next. But there's all types of clouds, colors, and patterns in their vision. One day I read a book. I won't mention the book to you. I found a very profound statement in this book. The author said, historians begin by looking backwards, and they oftentimes end up by thinking backwards. They begin by looking in the past, and oftentimes they end up by thinking backwards as well. And this is something in regards to slavery. Slavery was a reality of life. Every race, every nation, every religion, from Jews, Christians, Muslims, Africans, Arabs, Romans, Celts, Vikings, and the list goes on, they practiced two things. Number one, warfare and battle. Number two, slavery. Men were taken as slaves. Women were taken as slaves. Children were taken as slaves. Men were sold, men were bought. Women were sold, women were bought. Children were sold, children were bought. This is a universal principle. It's not something that the Muslims created. It's not something that the Arabs created. It's not something that the Southern planter class created. This is a well-known practice. However, there are many inconsistencies and lack of unparallels with regards to Islamic slavery and non-Islamic slavery. So before we go any further, most people talk about Islam and slavery, sex slaves. The very first sneaky, dirty tactic is to make slavery specific to Islam. It's to make the concept of mulk al-yamin, right-hand possession, specific to Islam. In other words, once you agree to this premise, you're automatically stuck in a corner now. And that Islam is the only religion that allows and promotes slavery. If you read the history of this country, you'll find that slavery was upheld, it was justified, it was allowed, and it was promoted not just through racism, but through science, through biology, through religion, through theology. And they justified the practice of slavery. And they also justified and made it permissible for the owner of a slave woman to have intimate relations with that bondswoman. It's something that's well known in history. So it is not specific to Islam. Everybody understand this? So let's just stop and let's just think about it. Let's make a realistic look at war. We have a battle. We have the Muslims here, and we have the non-Muslims there. Anybody who knows anything about fighting and battle knows there's going to be death. Someone is going to die. This is in battle, there are losses. You play chess, you have to give up some pieces to win. It's just a reality of the game. So therefore, if I'm fighting on the side of the Muslims, I'm now putting my life, my soul at ultimate risk and ultimate danger. Ultimate risk and ultimate danger. So I fight, I'm wounded, I'm injured, my family members, my friends, my companions, they're killed and they're martyred. And at the end of the battle, this bloody battle, Allah made us victorious. He gave victory to the Muslims and the non-Muslims were defeated. Who were the people that fought in this battle? Most of them, 9 out of 10, were physically capable men. From the age of 15 to 60, maybe even 65, men. And in most cases, women of all ages. In most cases, children, young boys, young girls did not partake in this battle. So we have thousands of kuffar that were killed on the battlefield, and then we have even more or equal amount of women and children that are left over. Old men, young children, older women that are left over. What is to be done with these people? Kill them, slaughter them, let them starve, cause them to go to waste. And this is a reality of history. Read your history books. There were atrocities that were committed on non-combatants, not by the Muslims, but by the people who founded modern civilization and democracy, women's rights, etc. But as a Muslim scope, what do we do now? This is the Muslim army, and these are women and children. What will be done with them? Who's going to look after them? Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to provide for them? Where are they to go? And it's well known, especially in the past, those who brought the provisions, took care of the people were the men. So the men are dead. The men are killed. They're captive. They're prisoners. What are they going to do now? What do we do with them? Everybody understand this? What do we do with these people? Everybody clear on this? And then one of the solutions with regards to these men and these women is they are now a means of reward. They're now a means of blessings for these men who risked their lives, who were injured, who were wounded for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now these combatants, they award these people as slaves. So I have a woman in my possession that I got as from the spoils of war. She's a grown woman. What do I have to do? I have to feed her. I have to take care of her. I have to look after her, her health care, and the list goes on. What is the first thing that comes to the nature of a human being when a man takes care of another woman? What is the nature of a man taking care of a woman? We're not talking about Islam and religion. A man taking care of a woman, what's the first thing? Is that the woman is going to be his what? Mother or daughter or not wife, sister or... In other words, there has to be some type of drive for a man to take care of another woman. So if this woman is not related to him, she has no blood attachment to him, the obvious question is going to be his what? His wife. And if he doesn't marry her, or he doesn't choose to marry her, then the concept of I'm taking care of you because of something I had to fight and sacrifice for, the first thing that's going to come to this man's mind is what? Is what? Not, she's already a slave. That's done. We've established that already. The man is the slave. The boy is the slave. We're talking about a woman now. The first thing that will come to this man's mind is what? Huh? Is what? Sexual intercourse. This is a reality. We're talking, see, we said that you have to deal with history what now? Reality and transparency. Right now, what are we not going to get?
There's no such thing as a free lunch.
No such thing as a free lunch. Allahu Akbar. It said there's no such thing as a free lunch. But we have free dinner. In other words, what point am I trying to get to right now, brothers and sisters? It's a serious topic. Is that this issue right now in this discussion, we're not dealing with what? We're not being real, we're not being what? Transparent. And I clearly stipulated that that's how you have to deal with what? History. And a part of history is what? We said fighting and sexuality. Everybody understand? This is common sense. So if you have a better solution, what would be done with these women? Let them free, let them go, let them live by themselves. Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to look after them? Who's going to provide for them? How many women are going to be raped, murdered? How much chaos, havoc, and bloodshed is there going to be? Everybody understand? This is a general way of looking at things. So in Islam, if a man has a woman that he owns through this permissible way of owning according to Allah's legislation, he is allowed to have intimate relations with this woman. However, there is a huge difference between what we read, what we see in a movie, and what we read in the actual authentic sources of history. And that is, there is no such thing as raping of a slave. There's no raping of a slave, just like there's no raping of one's wife. Rape is an institution, not of love, not of passion, not of sexuality. If you talk to the experts, they say that a woman is only raped because of hatred and rage. The raper, or the one who's committing the rape, he hates something. He hates someone. He's angry. He's upset. He was taken advantage of, so now he finds the ability to take advantage of someone else. Most people, if not all, they don't rape because of sexual desires. They rape because of something is wrong with their minds and their souls. So therefore, you don't rape your wife because your wife is automatically what? She's permissible for you to have intercourse with. And in Islam, the Christians, the Jews, the Africans, the Arabs, the Indians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Mongols, their legislation was that if a man has a woman as a slave, she's not a sex slave. There's no such thing as a sex slave. She is a what? A slave. And from the things that I'm allowed to do with this slave is have sex with her. So we have these different terminologies. A sex slave. What is a sex slave? It's somebody that's only what? There for sex. And that's not necessarily the case with ancient slavery. To the Muslims and to the what? To the non-Muslims. Everybody understand this? I have a car. I drive this car. Whose car is it? It's my car. I have the ability to drive it how I want to, when I want to. There is no me oppressing my car, forcing my will upon the car because it's my what? It's my car. Can another man take my car and do the same thing? No. There is no sharing of a woman in Islamic slavery. Secondly, there is no negation of lineage, as we find in southern slavery and other parts of the world. If this woman, who was a right-hand possession, and she bears the child of the master has to be attributed to the son has to be attributed to the master. The daughter is attributed to the master. Why is my mother so black and my skin yellow and red? The master says, someone raped your mother. Someone came along, some strange person, he came and he just, had sex with your mother. Your mother, she couldn't control herself. You have no father. This is the slavery that we are used to reading and seeing about in America. In Islam, that is a major sin for a person to deny his child. When that woman, when she gets older and the master dies, she must become a free woman. And she's now allowed to be inherited and passed on, sold, bought, and raped by someone who isn't allowed to have intercourse with her. Everybody understand this? So the concept of having a sex slave in Islam, there are similarities, yes. But there are a list, we've only given you a few. There's a list of what? Inconsistencies between media, books, novels, southern slavery, and Islamic slavery. Everybody understand this or not? Everybody understand this? You may not agree. You may feel that it's disgusting and horrible, but there's a reason behind that as well. Not being real and not being transparent. Islamic Sharia is not a Sharia that's based off of a time or an opinion. This is classified as a disease, and now it's classified as something that's normal and healthy, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not Islam. Islam does not work like that. The Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eternal. Its rules do not change. The applications change. How it is applied and what place, minorities, Western countries, that's a different story. But Allah's ruling does not change. So in Islam, there are sex slaves, and in Islam, there aren't sex slaves. What type of sex slave are you talking about? A woman that's abused and disrespected, not provided for, she has 10 children with no father? That is not in Islam. A man who owns men and women, and this man and no other man, not his son, not his brother, not his guest comes over, this is my slave, enjoy her. No, that's not allowed in Islam. And if you do that, then that is zina as well. So therefore, there are rules and there are regulations for everything and anything and not Islam. Jihad fi sabilillah is no different than salah. Slavery in Islam is no different than Hajj in Ramadan. There are do's and there are don'ts. Those do's, those don'ts are not based off of me, based off of you, based off of Muhammad. It's based off what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed. Last but not least, in Islam, there is no capturing of free people. You cannot capture a free woman. You cannot capture a free man and then cause him to be a slave. Rather, slavery is a detailed legal system of Islam. Whether you accept it, whether you reject it, whether you believe in it, whether you agree or disagree, but know for sure it is a detailed system. And everything in Islam is based off of what? Detailed system. Wallahu a'lam. That's in brief.
Excuse me, can I ask a related question to that?
Faddali.
Okay, so you briefly mentioned that you can't rape a slave the same way you can't rape your wife. But how can you say in Islam that there's no such thing as marital rape when force his wife to have sex with him?
Question says, how can you say that there's no rape of a woman in Islam or rape of a sex slave in Islam when a woman refuses to have sex with her husband? We say, why would a woman refuse to have sex with her husband in Islam? Except for one of the following reasons. Number one, the woman was no longer the wife of this man. They were divorced, according to Quran and Sunnah. The husband still thinks that this is my wife. The woman, she feels, I'm no longer your wife because of my desires, his desires, but because of Quran, Sunnah. Third talaq, khula. We are no longer married. We are not lawful for each other. So your question does not exist. This woman, in the first scenario, there are other scenarios. The first scenario, this woman is no longer his what? His wife. So if he forces himself upon her, that's rape, but that's not of a wife. Scenario number two, the woman is sick. The woman is physically ill. The woman is injured. She cannot bear sexual intercourse with her husband. If her husband forced himself upon that, he'll be committing a sin. He'll be doing a bad deed, a wrong deed, by not considering and not looking after the feelings and the physical state of his sister in Islam. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for him what? For himself. So this sister is his sister in what? In faith. So if he forced himself upon her, that's wrong. That's an injustice. But to call it rape is something that I would not necessarily agree with. Thirdly, last but not least, is the concept of what you may have seen in a movie or read in a book is not necessarily the reality of actual slavery practiced in the world. And this is why I laid down these two principles. It was something that was well known, especially after a battle, after a fight. There were people that lost their lives. It was a well-known practice. When the Muslims were defeated in Jerusalem and the Christian crusaders were on the borderline, the outskirts of that sacred or that city, the women, they cut their hair, Christian women. All of the women with long hair, they cut their hair to look like boys. So they wouldn't be as attractive to those Christian warriors would take what? Sex slaves and abuse them. So what you read in a book, what you see on TV is not necessarily the reality of what? Of the world. Of the world. So you have to be real, you have to be transparent. There may be a woman that may resist. There may be someone says, don't have sex with me, you can't have sex with me, but that's not the legislation. And these words and these terms are vague and they are dangerous. The raping of slaves. What's the first thing you hear about when you hear the word rape? Is what? Non-consensual. That it's against her what? Her will. So let's ask a question. If there was a woman who was a slave and her master, her owner came to her, black, white, yellow, red, whatever race, whatever religion, and he made some type of gesture to her that he wanted to have relations with her, and she allowed him. She did not fight back. She did not contest. Would you still call that word rape? And if you would classify it as rape, would you understand that when you hear the word rape? He raped her. There was scratching, there was kicking, there was fighting, there was hollering. Would you?
Well,
Answer the question, please. You didn't answer the question? Yes or no? Would you consider it or not? If you heard rape, someone, he raped her. She allowed him or she fought back?
just by not saying yes.
That's not an answer to the question. Let's stop. Think about it for a second. This woman, unfortunately, it's a horrible act. I have daughters. I have sisters. I have a mother. This woman was raped. What's the first thing you think about?
Non-consensual.
She fought back.
No, she didn't say yes.
It's like, next question. You're not being real or transparent. It's not being, that's not a what? That's not an honest what? It's not an honest answer. Raise your hand if you think that's an honest answer. Raise your hand if you think it's a non-honest answer.
If I may, I would like to try to give some clarity to what this is.
Sure.
Because sometimes, often in rape, a woman may not be physically abused, it may not be violent, but it may be a condition where she is somehow forced or under a state of duress.
So the word, the terminology is one thing. Its lexical definition is another. My question was what? Clear. I said, what's the first thing that you what? Think about. What pops into your head? Not what Webster Merriam Dictionary says. A woman was raped with a fight or without a fight. What's the first thing you think? Not the only thing, but the what? The first thing that comes to your head is what? Is a what? Without a doubt. And how do they catch the rapist? Except through skin and blood, things that were under the person's nails, clothes, articles, evidence, because there was a clear what? Struggle. Now, a woman was sexually molested. A woman was sexually abused. That's a different what? That's a different story. That wasn't what I said. I said the word rape. Rape is a strong and serious word. Even the word itself, to rape something, it's not the same. If you can prove that logically, I'm all ears.
Okay, I'm saying the second scenario that you mentioned between the husband and wife, let's say she's sick or whatever, physically bare, and he forces himself on her, that would be rape, to force yourself on a person who does not say yes.
For one aspect, I agree with you, yes, physically, obviously. From another aspect, I would disagree with you because that is his wife. And the first thing, this is my understanding now, when I think of rape as a foreign man having no relations with a foreign woman against her will.
That's what you think, that's not what it actually is.
Well, that's relative. That's relative. You understand? 5 minutes left. I don't mind. We can talk.
To the analogy of a car, a woman is not a car. A woman is a human, and she has rights. God raises a woman to the highest standards on earth.
Type. Okay, that's fine. I'll ask you just one question, if you don't mind, inshallah. Who is the person that raised this woman to the highest standard on earth? Who? Good. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's very important. Good. Very good. So Allah, according to what you said, is the one who raised the woman to this what? No, high standard on earth. Those are words. And who is the one who allowed raping of slaves? Where does it state that at? Where did you get that from? I'll repeat the question. Listen carefully. The person who gave the woman the highest standard on earth is who? Or what religion? Huh? No, please. Can I finish my question? Thank you. If you please, let me finish my question. I listen to you. Thank you. So, listen up, guys. We'll finish 2 seconds. No problem. I promise. No problems. Really quick. Where do we find out that a woman has respect and rights as a wife? Where's this found in Islam? And what source? What source? The Quran. Every Muslim is going to say the what? Okay. So, you're now accepting something in the Quran, correct? Right or wrong? Okay, I'll repeat the question a third time. Once more. The one who raised the woman to the highest standards on earth is who or where? The Quran. Right. So, if I brought you a verse in the Quran that says that a man is allowed to have intimate relations with his mulkul yameen, what would be your position? Would you accept it? Or would it be an issue of emotion or issue of obedience to Allah? This has nothing to do with me now. We're just saying the Quran. Which of the two? You didn't answer my question, please. Answer my question. I didn't say anything about Hadith. Did you hear me say Hadith? I said Quran.
Okay, guys, I think we can call it a night.
Did you memorize the Injil? I didn't ask the question, right? That's why I clearly asked, is there what? I said, is there what? A filter. What did he say? No filter. I would have filtered it. Right.